Day 2 of the Silly Socks Challenge, and we are ready to cut some fabric. Now this is going to be short and sweet because there's not a lot of extra hints and tips I can offer to you in this one. Check the fabric requirements. Now you're going to be cutting 2.5 inches width of fabric for the background. So that means from the bolt selvage to selvage. So I've actually cut mine from some yardage that I had already cut, so I've ended up with 2 strips. Main thing is it's 2.5 inches wide. You may have leftovers. The fabric is a little bit generous to allow for any mistakes. When you're cutting for foundation paper piecing, this is the minimum width that you want to cut it. Don't cut it any shorter than 2.5 inches. If it's wider, that's totally fine. Just don't go any shorter because that's the amount that you'll need to cover these sections plus seam allowance. So I'm going to be using a red solid for the background. I've chosen this really cute little gummy bear print for my socks, and I've just cut a strip there off a fat quarter. So you need 2 inches by 20 inches at least for your socks. Now, if you're fussy cutting, remember you can go a bit wider if you need to, like that. If I wanted to feature a bunny and it was a little bit closest to the edge or the middle there, don't go any narrower than 2 inches wide because that will allow us enough to cover that section with plenty of 1/4 inch seam allowance on each side. So make sure you've got your 2 inches by 20 inches. Then for the contrast for the socks, which is just like the ankle band, the heels and the toes, it says 2 inches by 12 inches. You probably won't need that much. It's just a bit of a guide to make sure you've got enough to cover it. Scraps are perfect for this as well. Just remember, if you're using scraps, you need to have a 1/4 inch all the way around for the seam allowance for the sections that you're using. Now, the other thing in preparation that I would suggest is to mark your templates. Now, it's fairly evident, but remember I showed you that one I mucked up before. While it's fairly evident, I still put the sock color in the wrong place. So just put a little note on your templates just to remind you. So for me, that's going to be blue. That's going to be blue for the toe. That's going to be the print. And this section here is the print as well. And then I usually just put BG for the background just to remind me when I'm actually piecing. Highly recommend you mark your templates when you are preparing. It just makes it easier so you avoid mistakes like this one. I'm going to have to remake this block, you know, because it's driving me crazy and it's super cute. Anyway, that's my problem. I'll probably come back later with it remade. So cut your fabrics, have them ready to go. Super easy. Remember, don't cut smaller than the fabric requirements. Bigger is totally fine. Just don't go smaller. Don't forget to audition your prints. If you're going for fussy cutting in there, cut them a little bit bigger as needed. Otherwise, that's everything you need to know on the actual fabric cutting, and we are ready to sew. See you tomorrow, and we will be meeting at the sewing machine, ready to sew some silly socks. Chat soon. Oops, slight fib. We're not meeting at the sewing machine yet. I just thought of something else to share with you about fabric cutting that will just speed it up for when we're ready to sew tomorrow. Now, one thing I like to do when I'm foundation paper piecing is I rough cut my pieces to size ready to go. So we cut it nice and precisely for the fabric requirements. Then I like to cut it and stack it in order for when I'm piecing. It just streamlines the process a little bit. So A1, I need my cute little gummy bear that's going to fit in the center there. And I'm going to pick that pink one. Right, so I lay it against, it's a bit hard with the white, but I lay the fabric against here, and you need to make sure you have a 1/4 inch of fabric on all sides of your section. And then you can just rough cut it, ready to go. It's a much bigger piece than I'm going to need, but I've done that so I can center the gummy bear and I have lots of fabric around for the seam allowance. So there's my A1. For A2, I've got a little scrap of the blue. Just check that it's going to fit. Put it over there, have a look, and just make sure that fabric is going to fit a 1/4 inch on all sides. Place it in the pile. That's A2. A3 is background. Now I just lay the fabric. I know it's going to be wide enough. I just lay it next to it. I want to make sure I have a 1/4 inch here and a 1/4 inch here, minimum. So always be a little more generous in your fabric cuts with foundation piecing. And I just cut it like that. Again, much bigger than I'll need. Always go bigger than you think you'll need when it comes to foundation piecing. It'll save you some unpicking later. So I'm just going to rough cut that section for A4, and then A5 goes across the top, and I'm going to do the same. And then I have a little pile of fabrics ready for my A section. And I stash this next to my sewing machine, and then I can grab the pieces in order ready to go. A1, A2, A3, etc. And it just streamlines it and makes it a little bit quicker. So that's something you can add to your list of preparation. I usually do it at the sewing machine, but I'm a bit of a lazy paper piecer. That's just how it works for me. If you like your pieces more precise, feel free. This is just the way that I do it. Okay, now we actually are prepared, and our next video will be sewing our silly socks. See you then.